Bless up yourself, TR, and welcome to the Music Hacks Network.
Blessings, family, and thank you for having me. I'm really appreciating the moment and the fight to get to this point, because it seemed at one point that it was never going to happen based on the amount of obstacles that we had. So, I am really joyful to be here tonight. Thanks.
Awesome, definitely. And as I said, a lot of persons have been looking forward to this live stream, and we are gonna get our chance to speak with you after your 15 minutes tutorial tonight. All right. So, TR, what's the topic that you have brought to the Music Hacks Network tonight?
Well. Basically, I want to address just a few things, not a lot. Just a main thing that I see that occurs among young musicians. One, a lot of musicians don't know how to approach a solo. They don't have a format. So a lot of them think it's just playing a bunch of chords or scales or notes randomly, and as long as they are in the key. I want to talk a little about that, as well as I want to talk about how to function in a band as a musician, because a lot of people know how to function as a solo player, but not to function in a group as a member of a particular band.
Awesome. Sounds very interesting. So at this time, I am going to present to my Music Hacks Network audience the great man himself. He has a great show on I think IG, and you're going to hear about that in the Q&A as well. So at this time, to do his tutorial, Mr. TR Nyerere X.
Okay, all right. So we want to start with how to approach a solo, because that seemed to be one of the main problems that many musicians have. When I listen to how they solo, and I know this because I had the same problem too. There was a time when I used to approach my solos like that, and because I made that mistake, and when I listen back to how I sound back in the day, I'm like, wow. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. Now, when you're going to do a solo in a song, first of all, you need to think of the time that you have to do your solo. Not every solo lasts for 16 bars or 12 bars. Some solo might be 4 bars, some solo might be 8 bars, and sometimes, depending on the length of the solo or the length of the bars that you're given to do a solo, some people not sure how to present an effective solo within a limited amount of time or too much time. So there can be too much time for some musicians, and there can be a limited amount of time for others. Now, one of the things that you want to do is to think about the message of the song that you're going to solo. You need to think about the texture of the song. You need to think about the feel of the song. And so you won't misrepresent what the song is saying, because you can misrepresent a song in a solo. Another thing I want to highlight is during your solo, you're telling a story, or you're introducing yourself as a musician, as a guitar player, as a piano player, as a drummer, as a whatever. And so a solo should be a song within a song. I want to say that part again. A solo should be a song within the song. So it's like meeting a girl, or if you're a girl meeting a boy, or just randomly meeting somebody and they don't know anything about you, and you're going to tell them you have 1 minute or you have 30 seconds to tell somebody who you are and to impress them and to let them feel like they want to see you again. So what you need to do in your approach is like you're saying hello to somebody, like, hi, how are you? My name is etc. etc. I work at Music Hacks Networks, and my job title there is I am an engineer. So you're telling a story. So you're telling it in parts. So there are sections to your story. The introductory statement, then you give an outline of your job description, and then you do the outro. So thank you for having me, guys. It was my pleasure serving you. So you have to see your solo from that perspective. Now, during your solo, if you're a guitar player, a bass player, or and any string instruments, during your solo, you don't want to just play your solo with single notes. So you just play a bunch of scales using single notes or using the scales that you know. Don't play a solo by just playing back a scale. So because you know the G Phrygian mode, or you know the B Phrygian mode, or you know the Aeolian mode, or you know these modes, and because you know them, you just drop them into a 4-bar or 8-bar, and you call it your solo. Your solo would have shown how effective and efficiently you can play a scale or a mode. But at the end of the day, it would not be as interesting as if you played what you have inside you to introduce yourself to the world. So I'm saying basically, I'm going to demonstrate after this what I was saying, but let me just get it across first. So when you're doing a solo, you need to use intervals. You know, you can use a 1 and a third, a 1 and a fifth, a 1 and a fourth. Intervals. Use double notes to make your solo interesting. Also use chords. And if you're playing a scale, don't play the scale all the way through. Play half of the scale or quarter of the scale or the first 2 notes or 3 notes of the scale or mode, and finish it with an interesting phrase or line, or some people call it lick. So that's how you want to approach. And as I said before, excuse me, depending on the amount of time that you have to do your solo, that will determine what you can drop in your solo, what you can do while you're doing a solo. So that it is representable. You want to feel great watching back your solo at the end of your presentation. A lot of people don't know how to add soul to their, a lot of musicians don't know how to add soul to their playing. It's not playing slower that will add soul to your playing. It's not bending a note that will add soul to your playing. It's when you add your emotions, your feeling. You are really the sound of your instrument. And that's why we all have different sounds. It doesn't matter how many people play the same instrument, it will sound different. So I can play my guitar right now. As a matter of fact, it happened to me before. I did a solo once years ago, and Cat Core took my guitar from me and did a solo immediately after. And I wondered if it was my guitar. I literally wondered if that was my guitar, because it sounded different. He never did anything. He never changed the tone of my guitar. He never added a pedal or some sound processor. He used the same guitar and the same sound. And I wondered if it was the same guitar. And so that was the moment when I realized that your true sound, your true signature is within you. So it's your approach. When you approach your solo with feelings, when you approach your solo with not thinking that you're trying to show off on the people, because that's what happened. A lot of people will do a solo and it is really trying to impress the musician that is sitting in the corner of the church, in the corner of a building, in the corner of wherever you're presenting your show. And so your focus is on pleasing this person. Now, if you put your solo in your system and just play because you're doing a presentation, don't worry about who is watching, just play to the best of your ability. Make sure, and that's the next thing again, you have to make sure that during your solo, you put your best foot forward and make sure that it makes sense. You ought to know when you ought to go all in or when you are to just put a head in or a toe in or two fingers in. So yes, that's the part about solo. Now I want to talk quickly about performing as a musician in a band. Now you have to identify when you're doing a solo gig as opposed to when you're performing with a group of musicians. When you're performing with a group, you become only an accompaniment. So you're giving an accompaniment to the rest of the musicians in the band. So it means that you have to bear in mind at all times, and I'm going to say that and emphasize on it deeply, at all times, you have to make sure that you're not playing to outshine everyone in the band. I have been in bands already before, and I remember I was pairing with a young drummer. We all know him very well, and his entire intention for a show that we had in Portland, Jamaica, was to outshine everybody and to make his name. So if your intention is to make a name in a band and to outshine everybody in the band, you are taking the wrong approach to music. You're taking the wrong approach to playing and performing in a band, and you should break up that mentality. It's not good. Your duty in a band at all times is to allow your band members to sound better than they were or than they are. So my job in a band as a guitar player is to make sure that the bass player sound better with the notes or the chords that I add to same. My job is to make sure the drummer sounds better by making sure that if I am doing a strecke or a chicken scratch as they call it, or a strum, it is locked with the hi-hat, it is locked with what he's doing, and so we complement each other. It's good for me to lock with the keyboard player, and a lot of keyboard player, I'm going to tell you this because you might never know, especially as a guitar player. A lot of keyboard players, they're not fond of many guitar players, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because one single note can change the color of a beautiful chord. So let's say the keyboard player was playing a nice chord and the chord was blue, and you add, and let's say the chord was a diminish or a suspended chord, and you add an augmented fifth note to the chord. So the chord will move from being blue to gray, and the keyboard player will be displeased. Another thing that a lot of guitar players love to do is to experiment on the lines that they know. So they will run a phrase just because they just learned it, a scale, a mode. They will just run it across, and the keyboard player was going to play a passing note or a passing chord before he goes to the original chord. So you, with your run of a scale, you drop it on the keyboard player's chord, and it disturbed his entire movement. So what he was going to do, or what he had planned to do, didn't make sense anymore because you changed the direction of where he was going. One of the most important asset to a musician is your ear. Yes, your ears. You have to make sure that you listen. You have to make sure that at all times you can hear what every member of your band is doing. And if you can't hear, you should try to play lower. Maybe it's because you're playing too loud why you can't hear what everybody is doing. It is important also to have a meeting before each show and make sure that you and your musician have a basic understanding. Now, if you've been playing with a band for over 15 years and you had already developed a chemistry, then you don't need to worry, because when you have a chemistry with your bandmates, it's easy for them not to say what they're doing, but because you're listening and because you know them so well, you know exactly where they're going. I want to give special credit to Rough Cut, a band that some people might not look upon as one of Jamaica's greatest band. As a matter of fact, some people will just look at them and say, this is Jamaica's greatest dance hall band. You know, people will just say, yes, they are limited to dance hall. But the chemistry that they have developed over the years is something to look at. These guys spent hours daily in studio practicing one thing. You know what that one thing is? Mix. So they gave names to different mix. So some names would some mix would be called Mad Mix. Another mix would be called Sevens. Another mix would be called Triplets. And so they have names for their mix. And so as long as Drummy, Ricky start something, Benji know exactly what I do, staff know exactly what I do, and the entire crew know exactly what go on. And everybody latch on to the movements, to the moment, and then they sound so interesting. So when you listen to a Rough Cut band, you can definitely tell that these guys knows how to perform as a unit, as a band, as a team. So to operate on a stage, it takes a team. It takes team efforts. It takes being a unit. So you have to operate like soldiers. I'm not sure if anybody knows that soldiers never go out by themselves. You never see a single soldier strolling or patrolling down the street. They go out in no less than two. It can be four, it can be a platoon, it can be a group, but you will not see a single soldier straying down the street. Now you have to approach music the very same way. You don't want somebody to come to the show and just think that the guitar player did well, but the band was really crappy. If you are really good, or let's say if you are the best musical person in the band, then you have to be aware that you are the best. There's no need to show the world that you are the best. You need to tone down yourself and play along with the level that your musicians are playing. You don't need to play a lot of things and call a lot of names that the musicians don't know. A lot of guys back in the day, as a matter of fact, this was my reason for going to Edna Manley, because I was playing in a band one time. People thought that I was good. I didn't think so myself, but people thought I was good. And so band that was qualified to tour the world had called me to do little sessions and little shows here and there. And one day I was in a room, and some prominent musicians in the business, they were playing, two keyboard players, as a matter of fact. And every time we reached a section of the song that we were playing, they would say, play a C minor ninth, and they would say, play a this seventh flat this and flat that. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I was playing chords, but I knew not what the names of them were. And because these musicians were so good, they just do this to me all the time, and they know that I don't know. No, that don't make sense. When you find a weak member of your band, take the time out and treat them as such. The weak members will eventually grow and be strong, maybe as strong as you, or maybe even stronger. So we need to take some time and make sure we know who is not as strong as yourself and those who need help, and help them as much as you can. Don't be frustrated because you know and you think that you should tell them one time and they should get it. So if you're working as a group, you need to avoid being frustrated with the weaker musicians. You're a team, and when you go out there and play, the people outside of music, they're not going to say, oh, the band was not so good, but the keyboard player was great. Or the band was okay, but Lord, the guitar player sucked. They will say the band was a mess. So it is important that you represent for each musicians, because at the end of a presentation, whatever you present to a people you are all going to be blamed for the success, and you're also going to be blamed for the failure. So it is important at all times to take in consideration your fellow musicians. Now, there are different types of musicians. There are those of us who perform, and there are those of us who play, and there are those of us who play and perform. We need to understand that as well. I did a show recently, and somebody said, wow, as a matter of fact, the artist himself said he's never lucky in his entire career of 48 years. He's never lucky to have a band where all the members are players and performers. He said he's always lucky to get a great keyboard player, a great drummer, but the guitarist is like not so good. Or he gets a great guitar player, he gets a great bassist, but the drummer and the keyboard player is not so good. And he was happy that he got finally 4 members who was authentic, they played well, and they performed well. Now I will give you a joke. In this group, many of us was not even as close to being the best from Jamaica. I was in the group. I am far from being the best guitar player in Jamaica. I am not even in the top 10 best guitar players in Jamaica. I'm not even in the top 20 best guitar players in Jamaica. The bass player is not either. He's far from it. The drummer is also far from it. The keyboard player is also far from it. None of us is in the top 10 or even top 20 best musicians in Jamaica. But when we performed, we looked like we were in the top 3 best musicians in Jamaica. So that's what I am saying. It's a team effort. It's a group effort. It's a walking together hand in hand as a unit. You know, you can't leave the slower person behind. Now, I was trained for a certain amount of time to be a soldier when I was in Jamaica. And there is a thing that I learned while being in the training, that at no given time on the battlefield, I am supposed to leave my partner behind. So even if my partner is dying and he can't move fast enough and I could save my life by running, no, I have to go in the line of fire and save my partner regardless of the fact that I might die along with saving my partner. So no matter how the fire is hot, no matter if there's an explosion, no matter if gunshots are firing, no matter what is going on, I have to be there to save my partner, because we are not supposed to leave anyone behind. And so that is what we should think of as musicians. Our approach should be, let's not leave the weaker vessel behind. Let's not leave the weaker musicians behind just because we're powerful, just because we have a good name, just because we're strong, just because. So make sure that when you perform as a band, you perform as a unit. Now, there is going to come a time when you're called upon to do a solo show. At that time, you can do whatever the hell you please. You can play all the fat chords, the fancy notes, the fancy scales and modes and licks and whatever you want to do. Outshine. Yeah. It is time to outshine everybody, because you are there by yourself. So at this point in time, perform to the best of your ability. Outshine everybody, because it's your show. It's you. During a show or during a performance with a band, there are segments when different musicians get their chance to solo. During this time is when you can outshine the world if you choose to. If you want to show your colors during this moment, it's the time when you shine. It's the time when you show off your colors. It's the time when you show everybody that, hey, listen to me now. I am TR. Hold that. Hold this. We're not done yet. Hold that again, man. How you say? Hold on there. We're not done yet. Hold this too, man. So during this time is when you shine, and during this time, you don't have to worry about playing over somebody or playing the wrong things. So the rest of the musician during this moment, they are now supposed to listen to what you're doing, because now you are the lead singer, or you are the lead, whoever you are, whether you're the drummer, the keyboard player, the bass player, the trumpeter, the saxophonist, the percussionist. You are now the leader, and everybody else is supposed to follow you. So even if you are playing some notes and it is going into a different direction from the song was really going, it is now the duty of the remaining musicians to stand with you and give you support, because you are now the accompanying musicians. So when somebody solo, you don't solo. That's another mistake a lot of people make. The trumpeter is soloing, or the saxophonist is soloing, and the keyboard player is holding is dropping notes here and there and making minor solos. Play chords and play them subtle and play them behind. Don't go forward with your pretty chords and outdo the person that is at the front or on the floor. Drummer needs to pay attention to their timing, pay attention to the lead, and if the lead is trying to take a direction without knowing that they're taking a different direction, pull them back. But if the leader knows what they're doing and knows where they are going, and you realize that this person is not really lost, then you follow them. It's now time to follow them. And at the end of the solo, you all gather back, compose yourself, and keep the movement going. And that's the way to keep a band formatted. Make sure that you're together as a unit, and you will be victorious. At the end of the show, everyone will say it was a good band. The band was really good. Or people will start to ask, who was the band? The band was really good. So in closing this section, one of the things that you all need to do as musician is to make sure that you don't play to suit the hearing of other musicians. A lot of times the people in the crowd don't give a crap about your diminished third. They don't give a crap about your augmented fifth. They don't give a crap about your flat 13th, your major 7th chords, and all the fancy chords that you're playing. The crowd have no clue what you're doing. They know it sounds good, but they don't care. So togetherness is what you need. And when you do that, you will come out victorious and your audience will be happy. Because in closing, musicians don't really buy your content. Musicians don't really buy your material. So you have to depend on the people that will actually buy it. The audience, the people who don't really care about technicalities, they are the people who are going to buy the music. So if you should ever try to please somebody, it's best to please the audience that will purchase your music. And with that said, I want to say thanks again to Chris for having me on Music Hack Networks as we attempt to hack the music.
Awesome, TR. All right, I do believe that you have a song to perform for us at this time.
I do have a song to perform for you at this time, yes. All right, so in this song that I'm presenting to you, it's a freestyle. I have a lot of songs that I could play, including songs from my album that is upcoming. But my brother Chris was kind of afraid of copyrights, and he doesn't want to be flagged with copyright strikes after my performance. So I tried to break apart a couple of songs and add them to a simple composition. So this is just, it is actually a freestyle. So you might hear parts of songs that you recognize. You might hear phrases that you recognize. You might hear little things that you recognize. But in all, it's not a song that you really know, and it is actually a song that you really know. So fasten your seatbelts, guys. This is going to be an easy ride. Nothing fussy, nothing great, just enough to satisfy your hearing. So hold fast. So
Sir Duke.
sorry about the ruffling of the
Guys, if you enjoy that on YouTube, smash
as
the
I
like button
said,
right now.
maybe
Smash
because
that
I'm
like button.
sharing the microphone between the amplifier and what I'm doing here. So forgive me for that, guys. Sorry.
That's fine, bro. While you were there in your presentation and you were trying to tell us that you are not in the top 20 or the top 10, I don't know what you were trying to imply, bro. Because we know that is not true, and the viewers know definitely that is not true.
Jaja, no.
When I met you, I think I met you way back in 2011, right? I don't know if you remember back in the PQ years when I met you on Shortman.
Yes.
The things that you were playing at that time, it was so amazing, bro. I think the first tune, I don't know if you remember, I was struggling with Take 5 at the time. And I couldn't play a solo through. You remember that?
Yes, yes.
Yes, man. Yes. And you were the one who took me and showed me the ins and outs of that tune. And from that day, I never forget you, bro. Respect, man.
Oh boy, I'm elated.
And definitely. And as you were speaking, that you never left, you never practiced to leave any musicians behind, and I know that is true about you.
True.
All right.
True.
Definitely. So I thank you for doing that rendition of Breezin a while ago. I know I'm going to be in trouble with YouTube after this, but so.
And I try to not play it as it is, you know. I try to skip out notes from it and try to, you know, dangle around it a little bit. But I guess I played it too much like it.
All right, we'll see how that goes. All right. We are gonna get into our Q&A. All right, yes, guys. So we are speaking with the great man himself, Mr. Duke. Duke, I that's the name I know you from 2011.
Yeah.
But how did you come up with the name TR Nyerere X?
So Nyerere is actually my first name, and TR actually replaced MR. So people used to call me Mr. So Mr. Thomas, Mr. Nyerere, Mr. this. So me say, you know what? Instead of using MR, I want to be called TR. So TR actually stands for the realest, which was a name that was given to me back in 2011 as a guitar player. I used to work with this guy called Conscience, and he had three songs. He had a song called Realest Song. He had another song called Realest something of the sort. And I was supposed to do a solo on one of these songs. And I said, if there's a realest song and a realest that, then I guess I am the realest Gitsy. So since then, I gave myself the name Realest Gitsy, and people started calling me Realest. So I took that as the realest, added to my original name, Nyerere. And the X was influenced by Malcolm X. So I said to myself, I've always been using the names that my parents given them to me, and everything that I have was basically what was passed down to me by my parents or somebody else. So I thought I needed to do something for myself. So I named myself X to kind of replace my last name. I still use my last name on official documents, but if I'm to be called, I'd rather be called TR Nyerere X.
Very interesting there. All right. I know a lot of persons are learning that for the first time. I don't know if you have explained that on your IG show as
No, I
yet,
haven't.
but it's the
No, I
first I'm
haven't.
learning that. You haven't
Yes, it's.
expressed that.
Mm-mm.
All right. All right. So let's go back to 2011. I don't know how long you have been playing before 2011. So I want you to tell us how you started playing the guitar and what actually inspired you to pick up the guitar.
Okay. I'm not going to use the cliche term that everybody used to say that, they didn't choose music, but music chose them. Even though it would appear to be that, but I'm going to say it in a much different manner, even though it's basically saying the same thing. So when I was much younger, for some reason, the guitar used to just speak to me. There was two brothers at my church at the time that used to play, and every time they play, I used to just admire the guitar, admire how they play, and I always wish if that was me. And one day, I went to I used to use like sardine tins and herring pans and use them to create my guitar. And me and my brother, one used to call himself Dan, which was the name of the bass player, and I used to call myself Dave, which was the name of the guitar player at the time. But the guitar player was left-handed, and
Okay.
I couldn't learn from him. But there was another guy at church by the name of Roddy. His name was R. Jarrett, and they called him Roddy. And I used to learn from him because he was right-handed, but his fingers was too big, so I couldn't see what strings his finger was on when he was playing. So I couldn't learn from him either.
Okay.
But
But
this is the,
oh Lord.
this is the interesting part. This is the interesting part now. One night I went to my bed and I dreamt that I was playing, and I was so enthusiastic about playing the guitar that I used to have dreams of myself playing. And I dreamt of myself playing at a function, and the chords were so clear in the dream that when I got out of my sleep, I broke into the church. At the time, the windows used to be those windows that
Wow.
you call window pane. You can take the windows single, you can take them out by each one. I took out 4 panes of the window at the
Right.
church and go inside the church when it was not a service day. And I practiced what I saw in my dream on the guitar. To my surprise, the chords were real from my dream and it worked. So that's how I started.
Whoa.
and
Wow.
and I
Awesome.
and I was 12 at that time when I started that.
Awesome. So your inspiration came from a divine intervention.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. And I will tell you a story. It's going to be a very short one. There was a family, the same Dave and Dan. They were from a family called the Clark family. And this family was totally musical. The father was a player of a banjo, and the wife was a singer, the daughters was a singer, and all the kids were all musicians. Now, one Saturday at church, the following Saturday after my dream, I went to church, took up the guitar during a service, and played for the first time. And everybody was surprised at how it was possible for me to even learn to play a guitar, because there was no instrument at my house. There was nowhere to go to practice guitar. There was no classes, no schools for me to learn. And was my father held us in captive as prisoners. I would say that. I'm not even ashamed to say it. My father didn't allow us to have
What do you mean?
friends. No, my father did not
Okay.
allow us. He didn't allow us to have friends. He didn't allow friends to come visit
Okay.
us, and we couldn't visit friends. So where would I learn to play guitar? Nobody knows. So it was a big topic the Saturday when I went to church and played for the first time. I remember JC Hotboy in the chat right now. His uncle made this remark to say, "I must some coffee walk practice him do, because we don't know where him go learn to play guitar." And that was where my journey as a guitar player began.
Oh, awesome. All right. I tell you, TR, I know you are very entertaining, you know, because I watch your show all the time on IG. What I'm getting tonight here is that you don't speak a lot about yourself on your show. So some persons are learning a lot about you tonight on the Hacks Network. All right, guys. So all the questions you want to ask TR tonight, please type them in the chat. And we have a few persons on Zoom. I'm going to ask you if you can turn on your cameras and then talk with TR. All right. All right. So TR, I know currently that you are touring with Heritage, Morgan Heritage, because I've seen you on a few shows. I don't know the extent of that, but can you tell us some of the persons who you have actually worked with over the years?
Oh boy, you probably should have asked me this question before the live, so I can write my book. I remember a police officer stopped me one night to ask me who I played for. He stopped me not to ask me who I played for. He was just doing a spot check, and he thought I was a suspect, so he chased me into Marvelly. And when I stopped, he said, "Who are you?" I said, "I am Duke." He said, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "I'm coming from a rehearsal." He said, "Oh, so you're a musician?" I said, "Yeah, man." He said, "Let me see in your car back." So I opened my car back, and there was a lot of guitars in there. I took one out, and he said, "So who you play for?" We said, "The easier question, sir, if you want to leave here tonight, the easier question is to ask me who I haven't played for yet." And then
you have not played for.
Yeah, that would be easier. But I if I should roughly name a few, I toured with Anthony B. I toured with Iwayne. I toured with John Holt. I toured with Morgan Heritage. They're the last group that I get in touch with. I toured with Conscience. I toured with Mr. Vegas, and those are the ones that I can remember offhand that I toured with. However, I have played with multiple. You name the artist, I've played for them. So as I said, it's easier to name the artist that I haven't played for yet, and it's because he's in prison, which is Vibes Cartel, and Movado had his own band, so I didn't play for Movado. And most of the people that I don't play for actually had their own band. It's the reason why I don't play for them either. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So that means you have traveled the world then as a guitarist.
Yes.
Where is your favorite place to travel to when it's tour time?
I don't have a favorite place because I used to be stupid when I was touring. When I was touring, I would stay in my hotel before the show. After the show, I would do my show and go straight back to the hotel. So I didn't take my time to visit the cities and to see the historic monuments and things that they have in their countries. So basically, the Abyssinians. Thank you, SF Rose. I toured with the Abyssinians as well. So yes, I made that mistake, and I promised myself that never again, when I go on a tour, I would lock up in my hotel room. Oh, and Dwayne Stevenson as well.
Right. But what caused that though? Because that's pretty strange.
No, actually, the love for things that I have is limited. I love women and music, and I could find them in my room.
Okay.
So wow. I was not interested in anything else. Everything that I needed was in my room, so I stayed in my room. But as I grew older, I know that I needed to, socialize a lot more and, see places and, etc., etc. Yeah.
All right, cool, not a problem. All right, so Brando is asking if you were a part of the Ya Roots band.
Oh yes, I was a part of the Ya Roots. I didn't even remember that band. Yes, I was a part of Ya Roots.
All right, tell us a little about Ya Roots, because the first I'm hearing of that band.
So Ya Roots was a group of musicians with three artists that was not established recording artists. They had a few original songs, but no one knew them. No one knew their songs. No one knew the artist because they weren't very established. But we did play songs that were very established songs from established recording artists out of Jamaica and even foreign artists as well. Um, During that time, myself and what's his name again? I don't remember quite well the names of the musician. Sean was on drums at the time. Roach was on bass. His name is, why am I on name again, man? And there were two keyboard player. One migrated and lives in the United States. His name was Demar Thomas or something like that. And we used to do a lot of cover songs, and it was a pretty good band. They were based in St. Thomas mostly. Most of the singers came from St. Thomas, and some of the musicians were from St. Thomas as well. So that was your roots band.
Awesome. All right. We are not getting enough questions from YouTube and also Zoom at this time. Guys on Zoom, I'm going to ask you please to get involved. You know how we do it. All right. But Tia, you were very heavily involved in folk music at Edna, right?
Yeah.
Right. I remember that. And I know you have a few originals coming out, and I'm sure you have one. All right, we're getting some questions on Zoom now. All right, let me take them, but I know you have an original to play for us.
Yeah.
All right, I hope you have that set up. But let's take these two questions. Daniel Edwards first, and then we have Mr. Energy God himself, Paulo Simpson. Daniel.
Greetings.
Bless up, Daniel.
If I turn on my camera.
Yeah, that would be
Yes,
nice.
man, you know that.
So my question is, what is your, so share us like a setup for a tour or just a regular show? The guitar you use, probably the pedal, your pedal board setup, or and the amp.
Okay. So the amp that I use is the let me just show you quickly. So I'm not sure if you can hold on. Let's see if I can lift it up. This is the amp that I use. It's a Fender Reverb twin tube. That's the amp that I use. As for the pedals, I have a wide range of pedals, and it all depends on the type of show that I have and where I'm going. So sometimes, depending on where I'm going, I might need a smaller set of pedals to carry. I travel with specific gears. I actually don't have my gears right here with me. But if I should say, for pedals, I have a Boss reverb. I have a Boss delay. I think I want to. You know what? I think I should show them to you. I'm going to show them if SFOs could get my pedals, a few of them. All right. As for guitars, I like to use the Gibson. It's my preferred choice for sounding reggae. But when I'm touring, sometimes it's a little bit heavy, and I prefer to carry my Fender guitar. So I really do use my my Mexican Fender for tours. Oh, it's not here either. Oh God, if I knew, they're all locked up in the other room. But yeah, I use two specific guitar for tours: the Gibson that I'm using right now, and the Mexican Fender. Those are the two guitars that I use, and I used to use the Boss GT10 before I went analog. So when I used to use digital sound processor, it used to be the GT10, Boss GT10.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the delay pedal that I use. It's Boss RE20. No, sorry, it's not Boss. Roland RE20 Space Echo. It's a very good effects for delays. Very effective. And then I use the OCD for OCD full tone for overdrive. It's my favorite for overdrive. Then I use this for chorus, Hold on. Yeah, this for chorus. That's the one that I use for chorus. So
Okay.
super chorus. Yeah, that's for chorus. Then I also use the tube screamer. The Ibanez tube screamer for very mild distortion. Very good
Mm-hmm.
for distortion. Then I use a booster. I use a booster that gives it a warm tone in case I'm on a tour where the amplifier was not so airy. Then
Mm-hmm.
I use the booster for boosting the sound, and it makes it warm and nice. I also have a compressor, and so basically it's a simple lineup for what I use on tour.
Okay. So like I know I've seen like a lot of guitarists using the Roland I don't remember the Roland Jazz Chorus, I think that's the
Yeah,
name of it.
yeah.
Yeah, is it that's like the standard amp that reggae guitarists love to use, or it just don't matter which amp you have?
It not really matter which amp you have if you can find a balanced clean sound, because the sound actually starts with you and your guitar first. So the amplifier is not necessarily what is going to give you the real tone that you're looking for. Now some people use the jazz because it is kind of one of the more or most consistent amplifier out there for guitars. I use the Fender, and the Fender is really good in quality, but it is not consistent because sometimes, depending on how abused the amplifier is, it will get distorted, and it's not good for reggae. So
Mm.
the jazz chorus tends to be very consistent with being less distorted after you use it for a period of years.
And then again, it's a solid state amp, so I think that would.
Yes.
I trying to dig out all of the gear knowledge out of the guitarist.
Yes, yes, that's very good.
Because
That's
it's something that is not really shared much
true.
on YouTube, where a guitarist share their gear. A Jamaican musician really share their gear and what they use to get a certain tone and all of that. It's always more, an American person showing what they use for a rock session, a jazz session,
True.
and stuff. So yeah, trying to dig out the knowledge.
True, true. That's good. That's really good.
Bless up yourself, Daniel. All right, let's take Paulus at this time. Paul.
I hope everybody hear me. Good night. I'm trying to see if my show my video in the dark. But
Whoa.
yeah man, at TR know some places were a bit flooded yesterday with the Ida passing and everything. So
Okay.
yeah man.
Yeah.
Give thanks to Sir Duke for me. Many might say TR, but Sir Duke for me, I've had the pleasure of sharing stages with him and I've learned so much from his experience. And he mentioned something in his speech about the communication. Well, he touched a bit of it between what the keyboardist and what the guitarist would play, and one note can change the whole nature, the whole shape, the whole dynamic. But I wanted him to, just reiterate again the communication where it concerns a band. And I love the point he touched in terms of nobody should outshine anybody, but you should all make each person sound good because he has made me sound great many times playing with different people. I'm sorry, but that's just factual. So hats off to him for that. And I mean, he's such a humble individual that, he can't do a strangers can't do it. When he can do it, he puts everything into it. He spoke about putting, you must know when to put in your all or just couple fingers. I can attest to that. But I just wanted to reiterate more on that communication within the band in terms of, because, you, as you know, sometimes as an MD, you might not be playing with your own band, but you
Right.
might go away to play with other bands. That I have that situation a lot, and that communication is vitally important because it's not that you know how the other bands are, but you have to have that level of professionalism. Could you touch on that? Like how to have that level of professionalism when you're like an MD playing with another band? For example, I have to go away to Europe with a particular artist because sometimes the promoter cannot fly everybody, but they would at least carry the keyboardist or a backup and the backup singers or something to play with a band that is over there. Sometimes these other bands speak different languages, but as you know, music is a universal language. But you know how you speak about the communication in reference to just iterate a little bit more how important it is to have that level of communication musically within a band, and not necessarily to outshine, but to ensure that the music still comes out properly. How can one, approach that situation?
Okay, that's actually a very important question, an interesting one as well. It's very important to be professional when communicating with other musicians. First of all, you have to make sure that communicating with other musicians doesn't make them feel like you're speaking down to them. So never speak down to a musician or allow yourself to feel like you're all the way up here and you're speaking down to a group of little musicians that is just trying to find their way. Try to if you can't get them up to your level, try to speak to them on their level, speak to them so they can understand. But that is just about speaking to the musicians. When you decide to work, because this is a common thing that occur in the music fraternity, whereas a lot of Jamaican musicians are touring and sometimes the budget does not allow the musicians to take their own band, and so they take a member. Now, there's two things that you need to bear in mind. If you are being called upon to fly out with a band, to fly out with an artist to meet with another group, one thing needs to be highlighted from the get-go. You need to know if you're going as the leader or the MD of the band, or you're just going to be a part of the band. So if you are the leader, then you know at this point that everybody will look to you for directions and for advice on how to do this and that, which will be a lot of pressure when you have to talk to the drummer and you have to talk to the bass player and you have to talk to the guitar player and you have to tell everybody kind of, how to function, especially if they are not a reggae band or a band that is used to playing for a reggae artist. So if you are the leader, you have to highlight that. And if you're just going to play alongside the band, then at this point, when you go to this country, you allow the leader to do what they do, and even if it kind of misrepresent what you do, because if you have enough time, if you have a lot of time where you can, meet with the leader, and it's good if you are called to just be a part of the band, it's good to first meet with the leader and come to a common understanding with the leader of that group by himself. Because a lot of people tend to feel embarrassed when you speak to them publicly. So if you talk to him or her in a rehearsal, he might feel like, oh, this guy is trying to, overplay me or trying to make me feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And it will build something that you would never like in your unit, which is a negative energy. People start look by you sideways. Them not like you no more. Them feel like, say, Ray. So first you have to it's among the first things that you have to do. You have to figure out the personalities of the people you're going to work with. Who can take a joke from who cannot take a joke, who can take telling, and who is willing to learn a new culture, a new style of music, etc., etc.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that you have touched on it because why I ask is because I know there are other musicians that are listening, and it is rather vital and important for them to have an understanding from the experienced musicians how to approach such situations. Because, for example, in my situation, that was the case. I was the MD for the particular artist, not for that band that I'm going to play with. And what I did when we got on the ground, that's why I speak about communication is so effective in this music business.
Yep.
We have at least had the two management communicated with each other to say, hey, so Paulus is coming as the MD for Duke, on the show, but he's playing with your band and they communicate from that level first. Even though that was communicated, I still made it my point of duty as the MD to speak with the band leader of that particular band on an individual basis. So we actually got a chance to meet before sound check and everything, where that was also communicated because I wanted to ensure that the communication was filtered down from his management and it was the same level of communication, and also that the communication is transparent between both parties. And it was, which was I was very happy for. So everything was actually in place, and there was a better communication with the band. It was able to run smooth from knowing what keyboards you want, with sending the rider to everything. So even so, I was received by the band. It was a great show, and we communicated very well. So I'm thanking you for highlighting those points because, as you mentioned, the band leader separate from the musical director and the communication level, and that makes a whole world of a difference. Thank you very much, Sir Duke, and many blessings to you as you go along in this musical journey. As always, a pleasure to share the stage with you and to hear you share your experience again in this forum. I am happy for it. And big up to Music at Network.
Yeah, man, respect.
Bless up, Paulus. All right, we have just about 2 questions to go, and then we're gonna ask Duke to play his final piece, and then we will close our live stream to YouTube. Guys, you have been a wonderful audience. All right, so Vermont was on YouTube. I think the person left. They want to know if you sing in any groups or you do any lead singing or anything like that. I don't know you as a singer, you, but you know,
Yes,
every day we learn something new.
Yes, actually, I am not a singer. I have a single out at the moment, and the single actually sound good. But I personally, I am not a singer. I've tried. I tried supporting vocals on tours before. I've tried background vocals, and it was a disaster. And I will never try that. I will never try that again. So, so no, I am not a singer.
I mean, I know what Sting persons who don't well, they get a lot of empty bottles and stuff like that on stage. So was it that experience?
No, it wasn't that experience. Normally, it's only the musicians that realize what really goes on. So the musician did give me a proper beating that year and years after.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Finally from Brando, have you ever done any guitar tracking for Jermaine Edwards?
A lot. I played an entire album for Jermaine Edwards.
Whoa. Tell us the album, the name of that album, and some of the songs.
Sometimes, all right. I've done so much songs that sometimes when I hear them back, I am saying, was it really I who played on that track? I've played on so many songs that even Jermaine said, Duke, when you're doing this song, like when we're doing a live show, he would say, Duke, if you can give us back the same solo or give us something better than what you did on the track, that would be nice. And I'm saying, and I would be saying, I played on this track, and he said, yeah, man. So you know, remember. So I played on Hideaway. I played on I don't remember the names of his album, but I think the third album and the fourth album. I played I think I played almost the entire third album, and I played several tracks on the fourth album.
Okay.
I can't remember the songs individually, but if you call the songs, I might be able to tell you that I played on it. I played on every reggae songs, I must say, because I was respected as a reggae guitar player. For some reason, most artists just think that my streak or chop or whatever they call it cut through than any guitarist they know. That's what they used to say. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's true. All right. Finally, Duke, I am going to ask you to tell us what you have been up to these days, what you're currently working on. All right. And also, I wanted to give us some contacts. How can we find TR Nyerere X, right, on social media? And then I'm going to ask you to play your final tune, and then we'll be out of here.
Okay.
What are you currently working on?
Okay, I'm currently working on a lot. So on my program, on my show, a lot of Jamaican musicians suffer. I have been through a lot of abuse with many Jamaican artists, and because of this, I am trying to find a way to make sure that a number of musicians don't go through the same abuse, and that they will be also educated and know what to expect on the road. So I'm currently working on a studio right here in the United States. I am working to put a package together to get some of the musicians that don't get to travel, because I've seen musicians that are very good in Jamaica falls into depression after, like during a summer, like most of the musicians would leave on tours, but you have musicians who would still be in the country and wish they would get the chance to go on a tour or to even leave the country for once. Now, I am putting something into place so at least I can provide like a mini agency to get Jamaican musicians to come to the United States to perform, and I can take care of that situation. Also, as for myself, I am working currently on my album, which I want to debut next year, 2022. I want to release that album in 2022, and I am looking forward to that. So I'm working on that, and I'm also working on the TR show to be a big studio host, what do you call it, like one of those, like a Jimmy Fallon or one of those shows. I want my show to be one of those shows where I can invite a lot of Jamaican musicians to to um to come to the States and perform on a TR show. So
Wow,
those are
awesome.
yeah, those are currently what I'm working on, and you can find me everywhere at at the TR show. So on Instagram, I am the TR show on Instagram, in one word, the TR show. On YouTube, I am the TR show. On Facebook, I am the TR show. So everywhere on Twitter, I am the TR show. So if you type in the TR show anywhere, you can find me there.
Awesome. Awesome, Sir Duke. It was a pleasure having you on this show, bro. It was quite a difficult one. All right,
Yes.
for us to have this show, but thanks be to God, we made it. And it was an awesome show, and I did enjoy this show. All right, so I'm gonna ask you now to set up your final song, and then we get out of here. Thanks to the guys who are on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. If you did enjoy tonight's presentation, make sure you hit that like icon. Make sure you subscribe, those who are here for the first time, and share. And guys, the guys who are not, you're watching the show and you're not commenting, I'm going to ask you guys, please, to start, get into the habit of putting a comment underneath each video, man. All right, we want to build this thing. All right, we don't want to get lost in YouTube, as they would say. We want the YouTube algorithm to put us out there. All right, so put a whole heap of comments in the comment section. All right, if you would like to help Music Hacks Network, just type stuff in there and like the videos. All right, guys, and make sure you share the videos. All right, are you ready, Sir Duke?
Yes. Okay. Seemed like the track decided to cut. So I guess that is where we are going to cut the track as well. So the track decided to say, "Hey, brother, we have arrived at the time when you should stop playing the same track." So I guess, I guess this is where, uh, I guess this is where I will